give a full, huge, heartfelt thank you to Marquise Scott. I did a message to Marquise and said, I want to do a show on the Divine Nine. Can you help me coordinate that? He didn't just help me, he really coordinated it. These 9 representatives that you will see from these 2 weeks are because of his work and his relationships. Thank you, Marquise, for pulling this off for me. I couldn't have this show if it were not for you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I owe you big time, my brother, and I pray the Lord expands your territory. And welcome to another episode of From Surviving to Thriving. I am excited about tonight's conversation. Why? Because I have 9 guests with me, and those guests represent the Divine Nine. Yes, I have a representative from each and every one of our Black Greek organizations in conversation tonight. Let me introduce who's with me in this conversation. I have Dondrell Swanson, who is from Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. He is the Western Region Vice President. From Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, I have Shelby Bogney, who is the Far Western Regional Director. From Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, I have Timothy Woods. He is the Western Province Hallmark. From Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, Andrew Davis. He is the 12th District, 1st Vice District Representative. From Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, there is Tracy Akins. She is the Far West Regional Director. I have with me from Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, Melvin Hall, who is the President of the Alpha Epsilon Sigma Graduate Chapter. From Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, I have Patricia Spencer, who is the Arizona State Director. And from Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, Denise Trimble Smith, who is the Vice Chair, Centennial Committee. And bringing up the 9th is Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. The State Director of the Gamma Sigma Omega chapter is TR Badger. These 9 joined me for a conversation about the relevance of Black Greek organizations in today's society. I have to give you fair warning. This was a wonderful conversation, and after we all bid our fond farewells, my representative from Alpha Kappa Alpha, thinking the conversation was over, logged off because the conversation was over. But as they were thanking me for the conversation, another conversation started. So please note that there is a segment of this that does not have representation from the AKAs, and that was not by design. It was just how it happened. I just thought the conversation we started having was so important about Greek sororities and the church that it needed to be recorded. So please forgive me to all of my AKA friends out there. This was not intentional. There are also a couple little snafus with people and technology. If COVID hasn't told us anything else, it has told us and shown us who really holds all the cards, and that's technology. We have a couple little snafus, but it's all right because it's a great conversation with these representatives of the Divine Nine. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope everybody's doing well today.
Good evening.
Good. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
I think it might be no small feat that I have a representative from each Black Greek organization on Zoom together. So thank you again for each one of you being with me. I'm just very excited about this conversation that we're getting ready to have. There seems to be more information or desire to have information about Greek organizations because now we have a vice president who is a part of the Divine Nine, which kind of really put it center stage. Not that it hasn't been center stage before, but this is really special. So I wanted to do this episode to help people get a better understanding of what a Greek organization is about and why potentially they would want to be a part of a Greek organization. So let's start at why. Why would a young person or a not so young person, because I am not a member of a Greek organization, why would someone desire to become a part of your organization? Who wants to start it off?
Pastor Stewart, thank you so much for inviting us. I'm so excited to see everyone here working together, talking with you, and sharing this information. I'm Patricia Spencer, the Arizona State Director for Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And I can tell you that the reason why people should look into Greek letter organizations is because it's the best way to make you the best person that you can be. Our organizations are all about service. It gives you an organized way to contribute to your community, to support your community, and to do you in the best way that you can. All of our organizations reach out in our communities. We like to get our hands dirty. We like to support our children, women, men, everyone all around the world. And we do that in various ways with the programmatic thrust of each of our organizations. But really, the reason you want to be in a Greek letter organization, in my opinion, is to be able to support your communities and do it in the way that's best tailored for you.
Would someone like to add to that? Does she speak for all of you, or are there more reasons? Because I'm also curious as to what prompted you individually to get in.
I think there are more reasons. If you look at the history, of African Americans over the past, 115, 16 years, you will see that those individuals who have been preeminent members of any African American movement have probably been a member of a Black Greek lettered organization. So Black Greek letter organizations have provided the training ground for some of the best and the brightest African Americans in this country. So when a young person, when they're at school and they're looking to be something or do something in life, if they look at an African American male, African American female, and specifically if you're at a historically Black university, you will probably see that that individual is probably a member of a Black Greek lettered organization.
Okay. Someone else want to add to that?
Yeah, Pastor Stewart, Melvin Hall, chapter president locally, the Alpha Epsilon Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. On behalf of our Western Region Director, Brother Kedrick Dawes, State Director, Brother Warren Brown, I bring greetings to our esteemed guests and brethren and sisters. And I'd like to say, when you're thinking about joining any organization, the key or one of the drivers is your belief of wanting to give back and to pay it forward. So, why join an organization? The camaraderie. It's a group of men or women who share the same or mostly the same ideal core values and beliefs. The networking. Again, the only way to become a member is to go to college. So you're talking about people that have sacrificed, given back of themselves and want to give even more. And then you're talking about the networking abilities. One of the areas that people of color we struggle with is using our resources. And when you're surrounded by people that have greater resources than you, have greater knowledge or access to information, and you're a part of a family, now you have the ability to share it. And in that collective knowledge comes collective strength. So camaraderie, networking, and the ability to pay it forward, I would say are three key drivers in why you should join an organization.
Okay. So how would someone determine which is the best organization for them? I see lots of ladies here, and I would be like, how would I know which is the best fit? And same for the fellas. How do you know which is the one that you should be a part of?
This is Tracy Ricard Akins, member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Far West Regional Director. Thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity just to come and share a little bit about our organizations. But certainly when you are on that campus, I like to think you look around and there is just so much that indeed you do see. But what you see most of all is what that organization is doing. Because if all you see is, oh, they showing out at the party, well, maybe that's not it. But on the other hand, if you see them, as someone said earlier, getting their hands dirty, that's probably where you want to go. Because for Delta Sigma Theta, it really is all about service. We were started from a social action perspective. So for us, service is everything. I also think back when you look at someone who is on a college campus, you're looking at two types of individuals. Someone who may have been raised in an environment where everyone was Greek. Your mother was Greek, your father was Greek, your aunts, your uncles. That's the environment that you come from. So when you set on that campus, you already know what you want to do. But then you also have that other individual, maybe first generational to college. They may not necessarily know. So they are looking to find a home. They will find a home based on their individual uniqueness, their characters, where they blend in, because every organization isn't for every individual. So it also has to do with that college campus. In some areas, some organizations are more prominent than others. So it has a lot to do with really who you are and where you are and how you make your decision. But certainly I'll say in Delta Sigma Theta, if you want to get your hands a little dirty and come out and do a little work, we are definitely the organization for you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think you were going to say something, Dondrell, as well.
Well, sure. I echo a lot of the sentiments that have already been stated, but I would just add that everyone's journey into an organization is a little bit different. And so we may have a lot of commonality, and a lot of that is rooted in the experience, the cultural experience that many of us have. But once we get into a place where we're deciding upon organizations, as you spend more and more years in the organizations, you start to hear various stories of what led. I think Tracy touched on it. Sometimes it's, hey, I grew up in a certain environment, so that's what I want to be. Sometimes it's, I grew up in a certain environment, so that's how I knew that's not what I wanted to be. And sometimes it's, hey, the girl I was dating really liked this, and so we got into that. I mean, there are a lot of different influences that kind of drive us to different organizations. For me, and I had the privilege of joining in college, and I just want to put a little pin in that. I'm gonna come back to it in a second, but I think a lot of folks end up joining at the alumni level, and their experience is yet very different than those of us who joined in college. Sometimes they had the interest in college, but not the opportunity. And sometimes they grew their interest at a later point in life based upon some of that community engagement that the organization was involved in. For me at a young age, I saw myself on this campus with folks, and I looked into my what I envisioned to be my future. And I thought I would live in circumstances that were better than the ones that I was in when I came to college. Right. And I knew that I wanted to have a network of like-minded individuals that not only my children could be around and grow up with, but that also I would have the opportunity to stay connected. Like if I left work and I had to take a certain part of me off, when I got to put it back on, I knew I wanted to be engaged in these organizations. And that played a big role for me.
Okay. TR, I see your hand. Is there something you wanted to add as well?
Oh, definitely, for sure. I echo all the sentiments and thoughts that were just presented by the other prestigious people of their organizations. But to further piggyback and follow up on that, to further elaborate, I think it's up to the individual to identify as far as what they want for themselves, because a part of college is beyond just getting a degree. You're also learning about yourself. I mean, those are the intricate years where you're really learning and just trying to cultivate yourself and matriculate into the person who you want to be. And so whatever organization or even Greek organization that you happen to see in your local environment, first and foremost, you definitely want to, do your research as far as what that organization stands for, because each organization has a mission, a goal, and a certain theme. And so with that comes with a certain culture within their identity. So you first want to identify yourself and see if that organization, shares some of the characteristics and identities along with it. Now, there's also a caveat to that, because I'm only speaking for myself as far as from my experience. Iota Phi Theta wasn't the first organization I had an interest in. There was other organizations, Greek organizations I had an interest in, but, I kind of took my time and got a chance to, get to know them, because, I feel like sometimes, this is just my opinion, of certain interests that fall into organizations. I would often ask them, what is the reason? What do you see yourself, if you were happen to be in this organization, what do you see yourself doing in the next 5, 10 years? It's kind of similar to life questions. What do you see yourself doing in the next 5 to 10 years? And so that also can apply to a Greek life, because when you commit and pledge, this is a life commitment. And so you definitely want to identify yourself with the best organization that not only reflects you, but you reflect them. It's kind of binary. And so I would always think to myself, alluding to what the brother of Alpha Phi Alpha said, you want to be surrounded by like-minded individuals. And so I always thought, and I looked around at IOTA at my campus and saw that not only they were like-minded, but they were elevated. Like, they showed through their action that beyond just the school, they were there for their communities. They really cared about, growing their own, and as well as having business like-minded, because some of them were business owners. And so I thought it was very important that I surrounded myself with not just like-minded, but elevated, that will teach me based off their actions. And I've learned in every organization that whatever organization that you think about joining, you really want to know what they stand for, because I've learned that not every chapter represents the actual theme of that main organization. So I asked myself, how can you represent an international organization? Because all the Divine Nines are international. So I would ask myself, how are you going to represent a international org if your local ain't straight? So that's like another burden that you have to climb if you feel like they don't reflect that identity of the mission statement, because each member of the sorority and fraternity has very prestigious historical leaders in the past before our time that really carried that tradition. So I take it seriously as far as that, with the theme of what each sorority and fraternity represents, is up to me to carry on and make that better.
I appreciate that. I like what you said. It's not just finding out how you fit with them, but it's also the reverse, how they fit with you. I really appreciate the way you put that. I want to circle back. Oh, yes. Who wanted to say something? Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, I was gonna, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead,
no.
Steph.
Well, I just want to say I want to greet all my brothers and sisters on here today. And it is a pleasure to see you all. I wanted to say about your journey. So my dad was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and my mother, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So I am one of those, students that came knowing what I was gonna do. And I was an alpha sweetheart, because it was, my parents were very active as graduate members, and so I watched them, and they it was a big part of our life, the Greek life. And so I came in already informed about what I wanted to do. But I would say that when you do show up and want to make a decision about an organization, you really want to see what you can give, yes, and what you're going to actually get back. What is that going to be? Because the networking is lifelong, the mission and our service is lifelong. And so you can't be tired of it. It really, if it is all about they party the best, that's probably not going to take you through. You're probably going to become inactive after school. So I encourage those to really look, are you like-minded with that group of individuals? Are they, and has there been sustainable work on your campus? And I think if you're thinking about coming in as a graduate, you also want to look at who is in that organization, in that chapter, and who do you know? What do you know about? Because we look for, and I'm sure my brothers and sisters here, we look for very esteemed, very accomplished individuals on the graduate level. So you want to also find out what that is. But, for all the years that all of us collectively have been doing, service in our communities and inspiring young people to be, I think one of my other sisters said this, the best they can be. Joining a Divine Nine organization is so enriching for your life. And so I think my last word would be consider. joining one of the Divine Nine organizations. And we're happy if it's Alpha Kappa Alpha, of course.
Andrew, I think you were going to share as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Pastor Stewart. Good evening to all of my brothers and sisters out there. Yeah, I just wanted to actually share, piggybacking on what Shelby stated. I'm actually on the opposite side. I did not have any Greek influences in my family. I'm actually one of 13 children, next to the youngest, but I was the first to go to college in my family. I ended up going into engineering at a school way in the northern parts of Michigan, Michigan Tech University. There were no Black Greek letter organizations on that campus. I joined as an undergraduate. Actually, I was a charter member. We actually brought the chapter of Omega to Michigan Tech. And our motivation was not so much, aligning ourselves with like-minded individuals. There were very few of us on campus. I can remember arriving on campus in the mid 80s, and I could go several weeks without seeing a person who looks like me. But once the university expressed an interest in recruiting minorities, we looked for an opportunity and a draw to get, how do we get people to come up to the, who look like us to come up to that school that's so far away from home in the middle of winter and snow up to the buildings, up to the top of buildings. But nevertheless, that's one of our motivations for pulling together that desire to go out and bring an organization to campus. We did our research, and that's one of the things, again, I think we echoed that quite a few times here. Do your research, make sure that the organization that you're planning to become a part of aligns with your ideas and principles. I'm the son of a Baptist minister. I've always been in a mode of service as an individual. I look now for opportunities in which I can expand and leverage available resources to further my purpose and my goal. And that's really what Omega brought to the table for me. As again, the fundamental principle of service. It allowed me to do more by leveraging resources around me. And that was one of the things that we wanted to do, bring more people who look like us into engineering, grow the presence of African-American minorities on campus, and then again, take that message and spread it abroad. So certainly, again, I echo everything that was said here in terms of, again, why people join organizations and what you should do. Make sure, again, that it aligns with your principles and your ideas.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for your responses to that question. I think that is very informative, that we can do our research. I want to get back to something that I heard Dondrell say. He said that and I might have heard it from someone else as well, that you can pledge undergraduate, you can pledge graduate chapter. Just by a show of hands, how many of you pledged undergraduate? Okay, about half of you. So what is the difference between pledging undergraduate and graduate chapter? And are there benefits to either or? Yes, sir.
Well, I think I can speak for everyone on this one. Pledging doesn't exist anymore.
Thank you.
You know,
I told you I'm greedy. I don't know nothing. Thank you.
Yeah, that's not a comfortable term, on any level. In fact, that term is kind of in our Me Too closet.
Okay. Well, why didn't someone tell me I was cussing? I mean, like I might have been doing. Please, I'm so sorry.
No worries. Pledging is a term that indicates and is generally associated with hazing.
Yes.
And that has been a stain that we have all, even today, have been still attempt to keep control of and to change the narrative, because it gives all of our organizations such an unfair stigma and black eye. So the processes we have today versus becoming a member through the intake process on a graduate level really should be one and the same. And it's a very controlled, very efficient, and very streamlined methodology across the board. Now, if you want to talk about back in the day, yeah, there was differences, and those differences kind of, in my opinion, It's just an MPO, a Mel's personal opinion. At the end of the day, it's only worth $1.25, and it's devaluing very badly. However, back in the day, it was symptomatic of problems we face within our own community, even today, in creating a division. Because if you didn't pledge, then you weren't viewed as hard. You know, you didn't earn your letters, and you know, you were deemed or looked differently in some circles. Whereas the battle isn't whether you pledged or you came in through the grad. It is, what are you doing? You know, what is your level of commitment? What is the service that you're providing to the organization? So the processes should be the same, with the goal of creating better leaders, better men, better women, better husbands, better fathers, better sons. So that is how I would answer that in 2021. If you want to take this conversation back, then we can all share, at least on the undergraduate level, the horror stories. And just for the record, I pledged at 27.
Okay.
So I being pledged by 19 and 20 and 21-year-olds. So, you know, we all have our stories. However, for those that went through the undergraduate level, it's why we are here today. It's part of that camaraderie, that networking, that bond, and that love. And I'll tell you right now, I go through it all again today, staying up to 4 o'clock in the morning, washing people's cars, cooking their food, cleaning their houses, changing their babies' diapers, the whole nine, because at the end of the day, it's the love of being able to give back to others. And that's what our service is about.
Yeah.
So let me opine real quick for the the regional directors who are on the call, the 4 of us. We need to make a distinction about what our good brother just said, that is a custom and tradition that has long passed. That all of us have a specific intake process that you need to go through in order to become members of the various organizations. Or what I would say the difference between coming through as an undergraduate and coming through as an alumni member is, when you look at the selection process, is as an undergraduate, you really are looking at, I would call, lumps of coal. You're looking at young people who are anywhere, sometimes traditionally, 18 to 21 years old, and you're trying to make a decision on them because college is just so short that you're taking a chance on an individual based on their academic record and some of the things that they've done in their lives, and you're taking a shot on them. And as our undergraduates, we take a lot of shots, and we sometimes we hit a home run like with Kamala Harris, and sometimes we don't. But then on the alumni level, what I think all of us are looking for is, we're not looking for lumps of coal. We're looking for polished individuals who can represent our organizations and can come in and do work in the organization pretty much immediately. We're looking for grown folks to do grown folks things. And so if you're looking at coming into any of these organizations and you're looking to have the undergraduate experience of strolling, stepping, going to parties and going to things like that, this is at the alumni level. That's not really what we do. Not that we can't do it, and not that we don't do it at times.
I think you might have offended people when you said that.
No, you need to say that again, because that is absolutely correct. You cannot go back.
You cannot go back. So you need to have a mindset of why I'm in this organization. Now, what I would tell you as if you're coming into these organizations as an alumni member, you need to understand that these organizations were founded by undergraduates for the specific purpose of mentoring and nurturing undergraduates. So you need to understand that, and that's part of the alumni. Part of this is is mentoring undergraduates so that we stay relevant on campuses.
Ah, I appreciate that point. TR, I see your hand as well. You have a comment?
Yes, what brother Timothy and what brother Melvin spoke about is absolutely true. I would kind of frame it as the difference between the undergrad and graduate. I kind of will equate it to like a sport. It's like rookie versus better. Because usually, as far as with the younger folks in the undergrad, you see them as potential as far as how to groom them to become a particular brother or sister as they become older and learn through the traditions of whatever the organization stands on. Mainly, most of all of us as Divine Nines have the same tradition and growth mechanism. It's all about kind of the process in between and just kind of the small differences that kind of define our identity. But in the alumni level, as the other brothers have definitely eloquently spoke, it's a different mindset because, it's kind of like a veteran perspective where, you're kind of established. I mean, one would think that they're established further in their lives as far as possibly graduating college, having a career, and then surrounding yourself with other elevated people. And then if they're within that organization that you thought about that you didn't pull the trigger to join in college, you have that other opportunity to join at a better opportunity on a different platform. Now you feel more emboldened to be surrounded around guys that are similar to you that could help and build you up, as well as representing what the fraternity and sorority stands for in their theme. So I kind of equate it to like, a rookie versus veteran, and then potential versus production, because then when you're at the alumni level, now it's all about production is what you do. I think the kind of misconception as brother Melvin had spoke about as far as, in college when, certain people cross and become in their orgs at undergrad, and then if they run across another brother, sister, and you hear their place partially different than yours, there's this quote unquote stigma of paper. But like brother Melvin said, it's about what you do, because anybody could get to a certain place. The more question is, it's one thing to get there, it's another thing to maintain it. So it's one thing to obtain, it's another thing to maintain. And so that's where the real work and definition comes in, is after you cross. Getting there is one thing, but maintaining it's another thing.
All right,
Pastor
thank you.
Stewart,
Yes.
there's just one more element I'd like to share. Thank you to my brothers out there who are really eloquently stating exactly where we're coming from in terms of pledging and what is no longer pledging, which is an intake process. In 1990, the National Panhellenic Council, which is the organization that all of our organizations belong to, that's how we came up with the Divine Nine. In 1990, we came together and made a statement that there would no longer be pledging, that our membership process would be an educational process that built bonds and represented what each of our organizations was trying to instill in not just our undergraduate members, but all of our members. And we've continued that process to date. Now, of course, we have all heard the stories about different organizations, whether they're Black Greek lettered or not. Just today, 2 organizations, I believe in Missouri or somewhere, had an issue. We've heard those stories about the hazing, as my brother Hall said, but what's most important is that we need to recognize that our process now is about helping to share our history, educate people who come into our organizations, uplifting our organizations, and being a true example of what we actually do versus a type of initiation as we had back in the early 80s and prior to that, before that 1990 decision that we collectively came to. So you weren't saying a bad word, pledging was a thing, but we have come into a different reality and understanding of what joining a Greek letter organization really means. And none of our founders were ever hazed. None of our founders ever pledged. So we tried to reach back and create an environment that's indicative of what they started.
Thank you. Tracy, I think you had a comment as well, and then I'll come over to you, Denise.
I did. I simply wanted to say, certainly membership intake is very, very, very important to us. And even in this time of a pandemic, some of us are still proceeding with membership intake activities, though they are done in a virtual environment. And I heard someone mention paper. That is now what we have to really get over. So that's a conversation that I have with some of my new initiates, because I need to remind them that you were selected to be a member of this organization because of your upcoming leadership skills. So with your leadership skills, I'm going to need you to stand up and say, no, I'm not paper. I didn't skate to get in. I did what I was supposed to do. I followed all the rules, and now I am a member, and I have a 6-digit membership number, just like everyone else at the end of the day. And that's what we need them to understand. Leave what happened in the past. And I think sometimes we have a tendency to glorify some of those stories. And when we glorify some of those stories, people still want to have input or participate in some of those activities. But just as in real life, we move on, we progress. Well, in our organizations, we too have moved on. We have progressed to a different way of doing something. And that is now membership intake.
All right, thank you. Denise, you were going to make a comment.
I am, and thank you all so much for being here. I'm so excited to see all my older siblings. We are the baby girls of the Divine Nine, and we take our rightful place because we get to be pretty spoiled, I can tell you that. But listen, I want to answer this question as positively as I can, but with that positivity comes honesty. I can tell you my 3 letters that I wear on my chest and in my heart look no different than the 3 letters that someone who came through a graduate process wear on their chest and on their heart. My 3 letters exemplify more than time. It does not matter when you came in. It doesn't matter if you were on an undergraduate campus, an HBCU, or like myself, a PWI. And for those of us who may not be familiar with that term, it just means predominantly white institution. When you are on those institutions, or whether you came in as a graduate or an alumni chapter or an undergraduate chapter, none of that stuff matters when you keep the model and you are dedicated to following in our founders' footsteps. If you are dedicated and willing to sacrifice time, effort, your talents, all of those wonderful things that that we all can contribute to our organizations, nobody cares. I don't. I want to have a sister no matter when she was born. I want to have brothers that I can walk alongside no matter when they were born. And I think that that's really important. I also think that the dynamic of the Divine Nine, or our NPHC, National Pan-Hellenic Council members, it kind of goes organically. I can say that we all have an affinity to our own organization. Absolutely. But what also played a huge part in me joining a historically Black sorority, because mind you, I said I came on a campus that was predominantly white. So there are historically white sororities as well that I had the option of joining. But one of the main reasons that I say that I was attracted to as a first generation college student, as the first person in my family to graduate college and have to explain what a sorority and a fraternity is to my family, I can tell you that having the other Divine Nine organizations as a part of the family, no matter if it was graduate or undergraduate, having that camaraderie, having that commitment is really what drives us apart from other organizations. And that includes time as to when you became a part of the organization. Whether you're a neophyte, which means new member from 2 days ago or a year ago, or whether you were a neophyte when years ago when you came into your organization, that matters not. What matters most is if you are walking out the tenets of our organization. And when you came in, I don't care. I just want you to love me so much so that I can love you even harder. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, thank you for that, Denise. Melvin, I think you have a comment as well.
Yeah, this is in the spirit of Jess. Our honorable sister from Delta Sigma Theta, Miss Akins, she slid in a little jab to everybody. I don't know if they caught it. She said the 6-digit membership card. So, you know, I just wanted to say, okay, I caught that. Okay.
I think you're going to have to explain it to me. So what is the jab with the 6-digit membership card?
That represents the number of financial members they have in their organization. So they have 6 digits worth of and as most of us will, I'll be honest, that's something that, you know, a lot of our organizations struggle with, and hats off to the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha and Delta Sigma Theta, and our sisters as well, Zeta Phi Beta, and as she rose, the sororities really do a phenomenal job at recruitment, retention, and keeping their members financial. And when she said that, I was like, okay, shots fired. I can't say anything but bow down, because that's
it wasn't intended to be that.
Well, now I'm curious, which organization is actually the largest worldwide?
See, there you go.
There you go.
No.
I'm just asking because I don't know.
I'm turning my camera.
No, don't turn it off. But you could put your hand down so I know that you're not asking the other question. So who's the largest?
Speak to that. I can tell you that in Alpha Kappa Alpha, we have over 300,000 members globally.
So here, Delta Sigma Theta, we have over 350,000 members.
Nice.
Okay, so that's globally. Do those numbers translate into the United States and her territories? Is it the same?
I can speak for my territory, which is the Far West region, covering 9 states and 2 countries. I have about 5,000 members just in the Far West region.
Right, and I have just over 4,000 members in. We're not in international in the Far West, but I have her same 9 states in their 4,000 members, a little over 4,000 members.
Well, I absolutely think it's fantastic that there is a global presence for sororities. Patricia, I think you were getting ready to say something.
I was just going to say that in the Pacific region, which kind of mirrors the Far West region of the other 2 organizations, we have slightly over 1,000 members of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And our area includes Korea, Japan, Okinawa, as well as the West Coast.
Fantastic.
All right,
And I was just going to say,
who wants to go next?
Omega Psi Phi fraternity has over 100,000 members on the rosters. Unfortunately, again, as was mentioned, our retention rate or active rate is slightly below that, but we certainly 600 grad chapters, 180 undergrad chapters across the international region. We do have international chapters in the Bahamas, Bermuda, Canada, China, Germany, Ghana, Italy, Japan, Korea, Mexico, Panama City, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and United Arab Emirates.
Fantastic, fantastic. Someone else.
I was just going to say, Sigma Gamma Rho, like I said, we are the youngest, but I'm not using that for any other reason but to say that we have a lot to follow. We have some great siblings, older siblings, and we follow in their footsteps as well. But I want our audience and the folks out there to be prayerfully mindful of is though we are really excited about the numbers, because numbers means power. We saw that in the polls. We saw that when we went out to vote, that numbers do mean power, but that is meaningless when you don't have an experience that is such a worthy and true, honest and transparent experience. And so when you talk about these numbers, these are all people that we can call our brothers, our sisters, our siblings, but don't let these huge numbers deter you if you are if you're looking for a home in a Greek letter organization, or if you have a family member, a daughter, a son, anyone, a friend that is looking to invest in research of our organizations. These numbers are not for numbers' sake. Those numbers, and I'm so grateful to my big sisters on this call, because that shows how much our organizations have invested in individual members to make a collective body that is phenomenal. And we have gone so far all over the world. And it's not just because We have a military presence. We absolutely do. In all of our organizations, we have military, we call them poodles in boots. We have military presence all over the world. But these chapters were not just set up because someone was stationed there. It's because there was a need, a desire, and an impact in those particular global interest areas. And so these are exciting times that we can continue to add, but we can also continue to go back and reclaim sorors is what we call sorority sister, sorors and fraternity brothers, frators is what we will call each other in a formal setting. But we can go back and reclaim those siblings and say, yes, you may have gone away from the organization for a short time or even a long time, but you always have a home. And that number that you talked about, that my sister Akins talked about on your membership card, that is meaningful. It's not just a number. It's a human being that has a heartbeat, that has those 3 letters in our organization stamped on it. And we hope it's signed, sealed, and delivered, not just by each other, but by God as well.
Well, I can tell you it's exciting to hear the range, the depth, the scope that you all are reaching. I think I saw Dondrell's hand. I think I saw Shelby's hand. And Tim, I think you were getting ready to say something as well. If I'm wrong, that's all right. So we'll go to Dondrell, Shelby, and then if it was you, Tim, yes, and if not, cool. All right, sir.
Well, let me start by just claiming this for everyone, that I had the opportunity to go to college with Denise. And so I encouraged her way back then. So the fruit of my labor you see on full display today with her outstanding articulence and representation of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority. And I've always appreciated my sister, and the passion that you see in her today was every bit present when we were in college. And I want to tie a couple of things here, is that when we talk about development and joining our organizations, and the organizations evaluating things in us, they are looking for talent. And all of those predominantly white sororities and African-American sororities that had their eye on Denise because she was clearly talented in college, as I'm sure so many of the others who are on this Zoom here are today. But we want members who stand out inside of our organizations because we want them to live out our mission. And while all of us have different words, at the end of the day, every one of them gets right down to the heart of impacting African-American communities. Now, all of us welcome folks of different ethnic backgrounds into our organization, but everyone needs to be friendly and sympathetic to the plight of African-Americans in any country. And so we can brag about numbers, and you will not hear any fraternity getting into the conversation about numbers and sororities. That ain't gonna happen. And so while we laugh about that, it really does also highlight a real issue, which is African-American men matriculating to college, finding their place, and being nestled in responsible ways, right? And we are all struggling with that, not in terms of growing our numbers, because the men don't brag about big numbers. We brag about the work that we do. And the sororities do both. They brag about the work they do and their numbers, right? We just leave that part off. But we need to continue to find spaces to help our African-American men matriculate. And again, college is not for everyone, but for those who maybe are still struggling with the choice, I'm happy to welcome them into a college environment where they can at least put themselves in a position to make the best choice for themselves. And if you get a few years of college and then decide you want to be a plumber, well, that's fine, because you could also go on to own a plumbing business. But when you're not sure and you don't make a decision, you sit on mama's couch while you're trying to figure that out, that's not the level of productivity that we want. And so all of our male organizations are still striving to pull more and more African-American men in. So as I mentioned earlier, for all of you sororities with 350,000, encourage some of your boyfriends to go join the fraternities as well.
That sounds like a good word. Shelby, you were going to say something.
Well, I feel like this is a perfect time to talk about the numbers, not only in Alpha Kappa Alpha, but as a Divine Nine that actually sent the first African-American woman to the White House, right? So the first vice president, it's not surprising that Sora Kamala is is a member of the Divine Nine, and I am her classmate. We attended Howard at the same time, you know, and had many of the same experiences. But I think the what guided us during that time was definitely being social activists, definitely being in the community. I mean, Kamala very early was out as we were doing and she was like out in the community doing other sit-ins, right? So she had a whole nother thrust going on.
But were you going to say something, Tim?
What I would say is that anybody looking to join any of our organizations, remember this, that when you decided to go to college, you did all this work in high school to be able to get into college. Once you got accepted into college, you didn't just show up at the college door and say, I have my letter of acceptance and I don't have to do anything anymore because I got it. Because if you don't do that and you don't do the work of college, they would boot you out. Unfortunately, you know, we don't do that in our organization. We won't boot you out, but you have to really think about it. It's not about just getting those letters on your chest and say, I got those letters on my chest. And so now I am a member of this organization, and for perpetuity, I can just say that I'm a member. We all, in all of our organizations, discourage that. We call those people, you know, t-shirt wearers. And we discourage just the promotion of our letters for the sake of promotion. The letter should mean something to you, and it should mean that you're going to be of service to other individuals who look like you for the purpose of elevating those who look like you and humanity. And it goes further than just your individual letters. We collaborate on the Divine Nine all the time. I get a call from Tracy or Dondrell. I see Tracy, I'll see Dondrell, because we sit on the same stages at each other's regional and national meetings. And so we are a brother and a sisterhood inside of our own individual brothers and sisterhood. So it's not about I'm a Kappa, and so all I need to be concerned with is Kappa Alpha Psi, and forget everybody else. It doesn't work that way. When you become a part of the body of the Panhellenic Greekdom, you're part of the body. And so you have to understand that. Now find which part of the body you want to be involved with, but understand that little part of the body is there to make the whole body stronger.
Very well said. So what does it take to join? I've heard you say that there's this application process. So do you screen applicants? Is there a possibility that an applicant can be rejected? What helps somebody become a good applicant to be a part of your organization?
Great question, Pastor. And I think you're going to get 9 different answers to that question, but there's going to be some common themes.
Okay.
One is we're looking for talent, right? We're looking for people that are going to not just take from the organization, but are coming to give to the organization and want to impact our communities. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time at the alumni level, you're going to need at least a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
Everybody's organization has a hefty price tag to get involved with. So you're gonna
when you say a hefty price tag, give me a range. You don't have to land on a number, but what's a range?
I think the minimum is going to be somewhere around $600, and
that's cheap.
I just really thought you were going to say 6,000.
No. That would.
I'm thinking it's in the thousands. So I'm way high. I've saved up a good amount of money.
Some organizations it is in the thousands.
No, I said at the minimum, and you jumped in right there. I think that's the minimum for 1 or 2. But most of them are going to be probably in the $1,000 to $2,000 range just for the application.
And then you can turn me down after I pay that money.
No.
You get it back?
We would not accept your money.
Okay, well, praise the Lord for that.
Omega does not give refunds.
But
Pastor
I
Stewart.
also be a pastor. We could start doing that, you know.
Pastor Stewart,
Yes.
to answer the question a little bit differently, yes, there is a cost involved, but all of our organizations are by invitation only. So if you are interested in becoming a member of the organizations, the membership is not just an application process. You
Okay.
have to be extended an invitation to join, and then all of that information will have been presented to you, the qualifying information, as well as the financial obligation. And what else you need to understand is that you've heard it throughout our discussion today, that this is a lifelong commitment. So the reason we are by invitation only is because it has to be a good match for both the organization and the pursuing member. And because once you join, this is for the rest of your life. And so there are costs associated with this, just like at the beginning, throughout your lifetime as a member. So we just try to make sure that we evaluate those people who are interested and expressed an interest in our organization in such a way that they have an understanding of all of those pieces, not just the financial obligation, but the process to become a member, the invitation, and the lifelong commitment.
Okay. Pastor Stewart, I just want to jump in and say this. Even though we have our own individual process of how to become a member, I always like to say that's really the easiest part of all of this, because we're going to tell you how much to pay, what letters to write, what to wear, where to be, what time to be there. All of that's a part of the membership intake process. But once you become a member, it's all up to you at that point.
That's where the work begins.
That is
the real work.
The real work.
That's where the real work begins. What are you willing to do for the organization? Are you now, oh, I got my letters and now I'm just going to sit to the side? Because remember, I have nothing to hold over you at this point. I can't make you show up because you already have the letters. So it's an internal conversation with you. Once you have the letters, how active are you now going to be? Yeah. Or you just gonna have your nice license plate, your wonderful t-shirt, but yet when somebody say, oh, can you write a letter for me? You're like, oh no, I'm not financial, I can't write a letter for you. So you have to make that decision once you do become a member, because once you are a member, that's where the real stuff is at.
So I am curious, has any of your organizations started having conversation about transgender individuals being a part of your organization?
So I can definitely say Delta Sigma Theta, yes, we've had those conversations. And so how we have it worded on the application is very simple. Do you identify as female? One simple question, that's it. You check the box, you move forward. You don't check the box, you don't move forward. Very simple.
Fantastic.
The same holds true for Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. We just asked the question. We are an organization for women, and if you check that box, then you continue on. Because again, you would have been extended an invitation to even fill out that application.
I mean, that's our statement that the sorority is for women, and so if you identify as a woman, then you can apply as well.
I told you, so far so good. Absolutely. Does it get even better? Absolutely. So join us next week for the continued conversation with this group of 9 fantastic people, the Divine 9, on From Surviving to Thriving. Let me pray for you. God, we do love you. We praise you for this opportunity to be together. I thank you, God, that you give guidance and direction to our organizations. I say our, and I mean that. Thank you for them. Thank you for how you use them. Thank you for how you use every member of every organization. Thank you, God, for 9 exemplary organizations that highlight the best, the good, and the greatness of our communities. Thank you, God. So for those tasks that they have before them, I pray, God, that you give them wisdom and you expand their territory, even in a COVID-19 environment. I love you, God. I praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. So this is what you got to do. You got to click subscribe. You can subscribe to my or First Institutional's YouTube channel or follow us on Facebook. That way you'll never miss an episode and you won't miss next week when we finish this conversation. Yes, when we finish this conversation with the Divine Nine on surviving the thriving. God bless you. Have a good night.